So my name's Anna Chadwick. I'm a final year English language and linguistics student who has just recently completed her placement year, finishing June 2020, as part of the Walt Disney Company, working for the Disney store as a buyer's assistant. Yeah, so my placement ran from June 2019 to June 2020. I formed part of the Walt Disney Company, working for the Disney store. I was a buying assistant, particularly for the Department of Plush, which is all the teddies and the merchandise that closely supports the films. So my day-to-day involved liaising with vendors who were mainly based in the Middle East. This meant that their English wasn't their first language, which meant communication was really important, as well as I shopped a lot with the competition that was online mostly, but also chances to go down London, the main shopping streets, and see what other businesses were doing trend-wise and whatnot. I also worked with multiple teams within the Disney store generally that included marketing, copywriting teams, legal teams, financial teams, and just made sure that all merchandise was ready for launches, met product classifications, and also the pricing that we expected. Skills that I really established from my placement year that I built on originally in my degree was communication, definitely. As I said, our vendors often didn't have English as their first language, and this meant that I had to establish communication to make sure that the message was put across to them succinctly and appropriately, and make sure things were done efficiently. Also, being able to establish formal and informal communication. So, building friendships whilst also building working relationships with people I wouldn't have necessarily come across in my student life, older people, more established in their career and whatnot, and establishing myself as part of a team, something that I found really important because I didn't want it to be seen that I was the intern, and that actually made sure that I got given plenty of responsibility. Also, things from my career, sociolinguistics played a big part in my time. I was able to understand when was appropriate to use language to promote power, or when was appropriate to take a step back and let somebody else take the floor as such. And just general meeting communication was key, something that I think the degree has prepared me for. So COVID-19 undoubtedly had a big effect on my placement year. The main effect was, so within the Disney store team, 80% were put on furlough for 3 months. This left an original team of 120 at approximately 15 to 20, with me being one of them. This meant that I swapped departments, took on multiple departments. My line manager was no longer working during my final 3 months. This meant I had to deal with the senior leadership teams, which necessarily would have not been my direct port of contact, but this meant that I built really strong relationships with them that hopefully I can use going forward. Something I'm particularly proud of was working with the seasonal launches for the Disney store. Obviously, Christmas is a very big time for the Disney store, and it was Christmas 2020 I worked on. So the things that are in store now, because you work a year in advance. So now being able to see on the website, on in-store, things that I had worked on and liaised with vendors on, being real and being successful and selling out online is rewarding, even though I'm no longer there. And I think that's something that I'm really proud of, that it's ongoing success. The university were absolutely brilliant in my securing of the placement, during the placement, and even so now after I've completed it. So I often talk about, I went into the careers department quite on a whim and sat down and said, I don't really know what I want to do. I just want to go and see a big business. I wanted to be part of a big business, play a role within a wider company for opportunities of shadowing. And I sat down with Nancy from the careers department and I said, I want to work for a big business, and she has helped me every step of the way. We started with thinking about where I'd want to work, what sort of thing I'd like to do, and then she reviewed my CV. I'd obviously had CVs from part-time jobs, but I'd never wrote a formal CV where I'd be looking for a full-time job. So she reviewed my CV for me. We worked together. We went through the application. I did practice interviews pre assessment days, and then once I secured the role, the support through the year was fantastic. Nancy actually came to visit me in London for an afternoon, you know, spoke with my line manager separately and actually helped me, because at that point I was quite early in the placement. I wasn't necessarily as confident as I was by the end, and she helped with encouraging my line manager to set me goals to progress and how I can get the most I can out of the placement year. During the year we had to write regular essays, so every month we got given a question and we were to write what they phrased as a blog entry. So that was brilliant because it meant all through the year I was reflecting, and then at the end of the year when you do your final essay talking about what you did, it meant I had all these parts that I can now go forward and speak about confidently because I reflected the whole way through. And then even so, after, you know, I've attended a lot of things to promote the placement year, to again help me in reflecting on the placement year, and also make sure I'm ready to come into my final year of study, including module choices and how making sure what I achieved on my placement year can be directly linked to what I'll go on to do in this final year. I'm very of the opinion never say never, but at the moment I don't think I would necessarily return to Disney. It's definitely a firm that I want to work for, a big business, but not necessarily in London. That's the only thing that's changing my opinion at the moment, but obviously, as I say never. But definitely I'm really passionate about English language and linguistics, but I also had a passion for business from my A-level studies, and I was always really confident that I wanted to almost merge those two together. So having the degree in English and then going on to secure the placement year within business, and then that's led me on to, I'm now going to study a master's in marketing. So that's going to, you know, give me the formal study side of it. So hopefully I can then step into another big business. I'm not sure where that'll be, and I think a key part of my placement has affirmed to me that nowhere's off limits. I will go and try anywhere and hopefully be able to get my foot in the door with any big business and be able to progress into other areas. London was everything I expected and more. It's such a social city. I had actually never been pre-moving there. I'd never really experienced it as being from up north, sort of had always stayed northern. And Disney was too big of an opportunity to turn down that I almost had to face my fears and go into London. But it was everything I expected and more. It was a great city to be part of. You know, the knowledge that I had that year to do, obviously it got slightly cut short, but to have that year to do everything that I wanted to see, everything within Disney, but also of London, Winter Wonderland, things like that, to be able to go and fully live the lifestyle. And I think for me personally, I couldn't have done that without the placement offering a paid opportunity. And for me, I was so thankful that I was able to be paid for my placement year so that I could go and have these experiences outside of the business. I was apprehensive about taking the year out of studies, was worried that it would almost hinder my progression because I'd had a break from formal study, and I can wholeheartedly say it was still the best idea ever, because I feel like I've had a preview of the end goal after university, and I think that has motivated me more than ever to understand really why I want to do well now, where it can get me, and what within the degree is truly helpful to real life. But to anybody who was considering it, I would say 100% do it. It's amazing and you'll not regret it.